Another day, another story. In the heart of Victorian London, where the cobblestone streets teemed with life and the air was thick with the scent of industry, chaos reigned supreme. The city was a swirling cauldron of crime, corruption, and confusion, where order seemed but a distant dream. Amidst this tumultuous backdrop, a peculiar figure emerged, determined to bring a semblance of order to the chaos. This figure was none other than Detective Percival Puddlewick. Puddlewick was a man of disordered nature, with a mop of unruly hair that seemed to have a mind of its own. His clothes were perpetually wrinkled, as if they had been caught in a whirlwind of his own making. And his absent-minded demeanor only added to the air of eccentricity that surrounded him. But beneath this chaotic exterior lay a brilliant mind, capable of unraveling the most perplexing of cases. It was on a dreary morning, as the fog clung to the streets like a shroud, that Puddlewick received his latest assignment. The disappearances that had plagued the city had reached unprecedented levels, leaving the authorities baffled and the citizens in a state of fear. People from all walks of life had vanished without a trace, leaving behind only whispers and unanswered questions. As Puddlewick stepped out onto the bustling streets, he couldn't help but be struck by the sheer disorder that surrounded him. Pedestrians jostled for space, carriages careened through the narrow lanes, and street vendors shouted their wares with fervor. It was a symphony of chaos, and Puddlewick found himself both intrigued and overwhelmed by it. With his trusty magnifying glass in hand and a determined glint in his eye, Puddlewick set off on his investigation. His first stop was the opulent mansion of Lord Archibald Montague, a man of great influence and questionable reputation. Rumors had circulated that Montague was involved in the disappearances, and Puddlewick was determined to uncover the truth. As Puddlewick entered the grand foyer of Montague's mansion, he was greeted by a sight that seemed to defy all order. The walls were adorned with gilded frames, each housing a portrait of Montague himself. But the portraits were arranged in a haphazard manner, as if they had been tossed onto the walls without a care. Puddlewick's eyes darted from one portrait to another, searching for any clue that might lead him closer to the truth. And then, as if by some stroke of luck, he noticed a small smudge of dirt on one of the frames. With a gleam of excitement in his eyes, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a handkerchief, his fingers trembling with anticipation. As Puddlewick gently wiped away the smudge, a hidden message was revealed. It was a cryptic note, written in a language known only to a select few. Puddlewick's heart raced with excitement as he deciphered the message, which led him to a shadowy alleyway on the outskirts of the city. With each step he took, Puddlewick could feel the weight of the mystery pressing upon him. The alleyway was a labyrinth of shadows and secrets, where danger lurked around every corner. As he ventured deeper into the alleyway, Puddlewick encountered a cast of eccentric characters, each with their own secrets to hide. There was Mrs. Haggerty, the fortune-teller with a penchant for predicting doom and gloom. And there was Mr. Grimsby, the undertaker who seemed to take a morbid delight in the disappearances that plagued the city. With each encounter, Puddlewick gathered more clues, piecing together the puzzle one fragment at a time. And as he did, he couldn't help but marvel at the delicate balance between chaos and order. For in the chaos of the streets and the disorder of his own mind, Puddlewick found unexpected brilliance. As the sun began to set and the shadows grew longer, Puddlewick stumbled upon a hidden lair, where the mastermind behind the disappearances awaited. It was a tense confrontation, filled with twists and turns that seemed to mirror the chaos of the city itself. But Puddlewick's disordered nature proved to be his greatest asset, as he outsmarted his adversary with a stroke of brilliance that left them stunned. As the dust settled and order was restored, Puddlewick stood amidst the wreckage, reflecting on the events that had unfolded. He had unraveled the enigma of the disappearances, bringing chaos and order into a delicate balance. And so, as Puddlewick made his way back to the bustling streets of Victorian London, a sense of satisfaction washed over him. The city may forever be a hotbed of chaos and confusion, but Puddlewick knew that he had made a small dent in the relentless tide. And with that thought in mind, he set off on his next adventure, ready to face whatever disorder lay in his path. The bustling streets of Victorian London were a swirling vortex of chaos and confusion. Horse-drawn carriages clattered along cobbled roads, pedestrians jostled each other on crowded sidewalks, and the air was thick with the stench of industry. Amidst this cacophony, Detective Percival Puddlewick, with his unruly mop of hair and perpetually wrinkled clothes, stood out like a disordered beacon of disorder. Assigned to investigate the mysterious disappearances that had plagued the city, Puddlewick embarked on his quest for order. Armed with his magnifying glass and a mind that teetered precariously between brilliance and befuddlement, he set off on his investigation. His first stop was the opulent mansion of Lord Archibald Featherington, whose daughter had vanished without a trace. Puddlewick was greeted by the Lord's stern butler, who led him through a labyrinthine corridor adorned with portraits of long-dead ancestors. Puddlewick couldn't help but notice the disarray of the paintings, some askew, others covered in a thin layer of dust. It was a reflection of the disorder that seemed to seep into every corner of his world. As Puddlewick questioned Lord Featherington, he couldn't help but be distracted by the chaotic scene before him. The Lord's study was a jumble of books and papers, with stacks teetering precariously on every available surface. Puddlewick's eyes darted from one pile to another, trying to make sense of the disorder. It was as if chaos had taken physical form and made its home in the room. But amidst the chaos, Puddlewick's keen eye spotted a clue. A torn piece of parchment peeked out from beneath a stack of books, its edges frayed and stained. With trembling hands, Puddlewick retrieved the scrap and examined it closely. It was a map, marked with a series of cryptic symbols and a single word: sanctuary. The word echoed in Puddlewick's mind as he bid Lord Featherington farewell and made his way to the seedy underbelly of the city. In the grimy dens of the criminal underworld, chaos reigned supreme. In one dimly lit tavern, Puddlewick found himself face to face with a notorious gang leader known as Black-Eyed Benny. The man's eyes gleamed with a mix of menace and curiosity as he sized up the disheveled detective before him. "What brings a man like you to a place like this?" Benny sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. Puddlewick, unfazed by the gangster's intimidating presence, replied with a disarming smile, "I'm here to restore order, my good sir. And it seems you might have some information that could be of assistance." Benny chuckled, a sound that sent shivers down Puddlewick's spine. "Order, you say? In a world like this? You're a fool, detective." But Puddlewick was undeterred. And he was determined to bring them into harmony. As Puddlewick delved deeper into the investigation, he uncovered more clues and pieced together the puzzle. Each step brought him closer to the truth, but also deeper into the heart of chaos. His disordered nature led to comedic misadventures and mishaps, but also unexpected breakthroughs in the case. The clash between rival criminal factions intensified, and Puddlewick found himself caught in the middle. In a daring escape from a gang hideout, he stumbled upon a hidden room filled with stolen treasures. The sight of the glittering jewels and priceless artifacts amidst the chaos struck a chord within Puddlewick. As chaos escalated in the city, Puddlewick's determination grew stronger. He navigated through the contrasting worlds of the aristocracy and the criminal underworld, his disordered mind piecing together the fragments of the conspiracy. And then, in a dimly lit alleyway, Puddlewick came face to face with the mastermind behind the disappearances. The man's eyes gleamed with a mix of malice and madness as he revealed his grand plan to plunge the city into even greater chaos. But Puddlewick, with his unique blend of chaos and order, outsmarted his adversary. In a thrilling climax, he brought the conspiracy crashing down, restoring order to a world that seemed determined to resist it. As the dust settled and the chaos subsided, Puddlewick stood amidst the remnants of the conspiracy. He reflected on his journey, on the lessons he had learned about the eternal struggle between chaos and order. And he realized that sometimes, it took a disordered mind to bring about the most profound clarity. With a twinkle in his eye and a spring in his step, Detective Percival Puddlewick set off into the chaotic streets of Victorian London once more, ready to face whatever mysteries lay ahead. For he knew that in a world teetering on the edge of disorder, his unique blend of chaos and order would always prevail. The moon hung high in the night sky, casting a pale glow over the city of London. Detective Percival Puddlewick stood at the entrance of an abandoned warehouse, the final destination in his quest for order. The air was heavy with anticipation as he prepared to confront the mastermind behind the disappearances and the conspiracy that had plagued the city. With each step he took into the dimly lit warehouse, Puddlewick could feel the weight of chaos pressing upon him. The room was filled with an assortment of crates and barrels, stacked haphazardly as if they were on the verge of collapse. Shadows danced along the walls, creating an eerie atmosphere that sent shivers down Puddlewick's spine. As he ventured deeper into the warehouse, Puddlewick's disordered mind raced, piecing together the fragments of the puzzle. Clues that had seemed insignificant before now formed a coherent picture, revealing the true extent of the conspiracy. And then, he saw him. The mastermind stood at the far end of the room, a tall figure cloaked in darkness. His eyes gleamed with a mix of arrogance and malevolence as he surveyed Puddlewick's disordered appearance. "So, you've finally arrived, Detective Puddlewick," the mastermind sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. "I must admit, I didn't expect someone of your caliber to uncover my grand plan." Puddlewick, undeterred by the mastermind's taunts, straightened his wrinkled coat and adjusted his crooked bow tie. "Order will always prevail over chaos," he declared, his voice filled with conviction. A tense silence hung in the air as the two adversaries faced each other. Puddlewick's disordered nature seemed to clash with the mastermind's meticulous planning, creating a palpable tension that crackled in the air. And then, chaos erupted. The mastermind unleashed his henchmen, a group of ruthless criminals who had been loyal to his cause. They lunged at Puddlewick with a ferocity that matched their leader's madness. But Puddlewick, with his unique blend of chaos and order, proved to be a formidable opponent. His disordered mind allowed him to anticipate their every move, dodging blows and countering with unexpected precision. It was as if chaos itself had become his ally, guiding his every action. In a flurry of punches and kicks, Puddlewick fought his way through the onslaught, his disheveled appearance belying his true strength. With each adversary he defeated, he grew closer to the mastermind, his determination unyielding. Finally, Puddlewick stood face to face with the man who had orchestrated the chaos that had engulfed the city. The mastermind's eyes burned with a mix of fury and desperation as he realized that his carefully laid plans were unraveling before his eyes. "You may have disrupted my grand design, Detective Puddlewick, but chaos will always find a way to prevail," the mastermind hissed, his voice laced with bitterness. Puddlewick, his disordered mind now laser-focused, met the mastermind's gaze with unwavering resolve. "Chaos and order are two sides of the same coin," he replied. "But it is the delicate balance between the two that brings true harmony." With a swift motion, Puddlewick apprehended the mastermind, his disordered mind guiding his every action. The room fell into a stunned silence as chaos gave way to order. As the authorities arrived to take the mastermind into custody, Puddlewick surveyed the scene before him. The warehouse, once a haven for disorder, now stood as a testament to the triumph of order. The crates and barrels were neatly stacked, the shadows banished by the light of justice. And so, order was restored to a city that had teetered on the edge of chaos. Puddlewick had brought the conspiracy crashing down, unraveling the threads that had ensnared the city in a web of confusion and fear. As he walked out of the warehouse, his disordered appearance now a badge of honor, Puddlewick couldn't help but reflect on his journey. He had learned that chaos and order were not opposing forces, but rather two sides of the same coin. It was the delicate balance between the two that brought true harmony to a world that seemed determined to resist it. With a twinkle in his eye and a spring in his step, Detective Percival Puddlewick ventured back into the chaotic streets of Victorian London. For he knew that in a world where chaos and order danced an eternal waltz, his unique blend of disorder and clarity would always prevail. And so, the disordered detective continued his quest, forever seeking the delicate balance between chaos and order in a world that seemed determined to resist it. For he understood that it was in the chaos that true order could be found, and in the order that chaos could find its purpose. And as the sun rose over the city, casting its golden light upon the bustling streets, Detective Percival Puddlewick disappeared into the chaos, leaving behind a legacy of disorder and order intertwined. Thanks for watching.